Hello. Give me a second. Hallo zusammen. Just the usual, it's a last minute technical issue, so I need 10 more seconds. If you have audio, let me know. And is that your session? Here we go. How are you doing? Wie geht's? Ich hoffe, ihr hattet einen schönen Tag oder eine gute Nacht. No worries, we'll be all in English as usual. And it's a bit different today, as always. Who wants to do the same over and over again, right? Can you hear me clearly? If you can't hear me, at one point the connection breaks, always restart the session, but let me know. Or let me know if it continues, and then I'll push the panic button at one point, and 20 seconds later we are on a new server. Let me know where you are. It's always nice. And later on we will have a little Q&A. We have exactly until 7 p.m. Then I have another appointment, and I'll let you know later what's required for that. Good. Nice to hear. Good. Everybody's here. Yeah, at least everybody who needs to be here. Very good. And feel free to ask questions later on. You can type them somewhere else, and later on when we have the Q&A, you copy and paste them into the chat. Because if we lose connection, then the chat is gone. So I would prefer you to not have to write it twice. Yeah. And near the end, we will take care of all the questions. Here we go. Let me share my screen with you. Today's topic will be clear. Oh, let me actually, I should be visible, right? Yeah, application window. Almost. I'm looking for my presentation, which is interesting. Okay. Here we are, keynote. So I'm showing myself. Oh, maybe it's not open yet. Good. Give me a second, because I had to restart my computer. And the bastard, here we are. So, no, not this one I want to share. You see something very colorful, right? Good. This will be more of a talking show than an entertainment session, but let's see. I'm happy to discuss everything. See this as an inspiration, maybe as a provocation as well. Yeah. Nothing and everything I say is the truth. So let's discuss it later. Good. I will see your chat if there's any issues on the mobile, so feel free to share whatever comes up. And I think so. I at least hope so. So I renamed the presentation a little bit. I'm a big skeptic of YouTube because of the reasons that I will present to you today. And skeptic, of course, mainly when people say, I learn German via YouTube. Yeah, that is actually something that really makes me sad, because it is not really, it doesn't make any sense to use YouTube as a learning tool, as the sole learning tool. And even if you use it as an add-on, there's a couple of things that you need to at least consider. Now, my opinion of YouTube is that its main function is 100% entertainment. I can actually not see this present. I cannot see anything. It's fine. YouTube is entertainment. You watch it, you consume. And that's mainly what it is. Yes, you can look at things and learn information, factual information. You have someone explain stuff there, and you might remember it or you might not. There's very few videos on YouTube that actually enforce proper learning. And don't believe me, give me a try. But there's a couple of reasons why it doesn't work, even though there's possibly thousands, hundreds of thousands of teaching videos there. The main problem is actually not this one, this one. YouTube doesn't offer a sufficiently strong structure. When you learn something complex, highly complex, as a new language, you need structure. And anyone who says you don't possibly is a genius, or simply means you can also approach it without a structure and see how the puzzle pieces come together. Yeah, for some people that's doable, absolutely no doubt about it. But 99% of language learners, let's say German learners, prefer and would benefit greatly from having a structure. YouTube does not provide that structure. It might provide playlists, and they might manage to put them in a reasonable order, but it's mainly, yeah, it's still, the content usually doesn't provide you with enough structure. And what the downside of not having structure is that you will have gaps. It's also fine. You will always have some gaps at one point, and you will fill it in. But from my experience, people are very concerned about missing out on things, the fear of missing out, FOMO, right? So like adding to this insecurity of, oh God, I have so many gaps, what do I do? How do I find the answer to that question? And having no guidance, actually, I forgot that point, no guidance, no interaction on there is not beneficial. The next thing is that there is a lot of redundancy with YouTube. So there's a lot of stuff that repeats itself. You have to pick the raisins, we say in German, cherry picking. You really have to pick out the raisins because you like them and you want to eat them. But how can you know which ones are good and which ones are not? You have to search a lot. You have to browse through a lot of videos, watch them even partially to find out what's good, what's bad. Over time, you become an expert and recognize good stuff early on, but not everybody wants to become an expert German learner in that sense by doing their own research. Why not benefit from someone, for example, like me, who has spent 30 years on learning how to learn and 20 years on learning how to teach? Yeah. And simply not recommended. I mentioned if you don't get any support from a human being at the moment of a problem, or when you struggle or have a hard time, that's already a pain. And if you actually produce something, you want feedback from that, yeah, for that. And on YouTube, obviously, you don't get any feedback. It's just consumption. Consumption is never as good as interaction. It's simply a fact when it comes to learning and memorization and information retention. YouTube absolutely offers no depth. First of all, the quality of the videos very often is really much at the surface. People say, look, this is how it is in German. This is how we say things. And then they show you 5 to 10 sentences. Some of the most viewed, watched videos on YouTube are just queuing up of possible German sentences that you might possibly need at a certain point. There is absolutely no depth to that. You might as well read a dictionary. The only more entertaining thing is that you have a beautiful woman or beautiful man presenting it with a voice and something to look at. But honestly, it's the same as reading a dictionary. And very, very few German teaching videos on YouTube are actually worth the time watching when it comes to this point, yeah, and many other points. It's a lot of entertainment, and nothing wrong with entertainment. I'm just here to make clear that entertainment is not necessarily learning. It's an important part of learning, maybe, but it needs to be taken care of. The other thing is that on YouTube are people that love what they're doing. I believe some of them that they love what they're doing. They're so-called amateurs, from amare, to love. And that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm an amateur in that regard as well. I love what I do. But an amateur is not necessarily a professional. So if you went to someone who says, I'm a healer, would you prefer that person to be someone who loves to heal people and nothing else and has no qualification? Or do you go to someone who has a little bit of a qualification, maybe 10 years of studies? Yeah, not everyone who's a healer is necessarily uneducated, but there's also many people out there who pretend to be able to heal you, but have no qualification whatsoever. Yeah. So there's a reason why teachers in any country of this planet have to study for at least 2 years, if not 4, if not longer. And the the education of a school teacher is pretty tough at the end. Yeah, the tests are pretty rough. For a German teacher at the university, the tests are doable. Yeah, I also managed to do it, but at least, it took a longer time. But it takes 4 to 6 years to finish studies of the subject, and of course, there is no guarantee that this makes you a better teacher. Yeah, you know from your experience that the teachers in your school were definitely not all good, but it makes sense to have a little bit of theory behind what you do and a deeper understanding of the processes that happen when someone learns a language. And most people on YouTube do not have that. They are native speakers, but a native speaker is not necessarily a professional German tutor. And that's something to keep in mind. You might like them. That's a different thing. And I have no problem with you liking people teaching on YouTube, but I want you to be aware of what you're getting into. Yeah. And liking is a currency that I find tricky, because you might like them because somehow you like what they say. You get an idea. You think you learn something with them, and you learn something with them, but you don't compare. You don't know, oh, if that person was a professional and an amateur, maybe I would have learned way more. So in my experience, many German learners are a little bit hungry and desperate because they had made really horrible experiences in schools or with online materials, and they see, oh, nothing works. Everything, I'm struggling still after all these years. Yeah, I get regular emails like this. But they never really question maybe the approach that they have been following. It might be their own creation, but very often they just expose themselves to language schools or, as you see, insufficiently capable apps or platforms or YouTube. Now, I'm not sure whether you can read that, but you have more or less a few seconds to figure it out. This is easier to read, right? This is even, it's the same basic. No, that's a bit different. This is it. So I would like you to think about what is it? What does it mean to teach? Yeah, if you think everybody can teach, think twice, because if you go to platforms where people offer their German speaking skills for $10 an hour, what kind of teaching do you get? Yeah, it might be that they don't have much cost of living, or they like to exploit themselves. That's fine. Well, that can be the case, but very often it simply means also that they haven't invested much time in their education. They basically learn by doing. And I know what I'm talking about because I was one of those in the beginning. I was learning by doing before I realized that I actually need to go deeper into this topic. Yet, on the other side, I was already 10 years studying ways to learn faster out of my needs. Yeah, I went back to school after having worked for 3.5 years in a governmental institution, and I thought I need to look into ways to learn much easier, and I had a really good time. I didn't put much work into my Abitur later on. I put a lot of work in it in a way, but it didn't feel like work as well. And most of the time, I really just enjoyed my time.